We're live now.
Okay.
This is Doc Frame live out of Chesterline Studios in Buchanan, West Virginia, and we're on the horn with Clip. What is it, Beastwood?
Yes, sir.
Beastwood. Where are you out of right now?
I honestly don't know, but somewhere on I-80 in Pennsylvania, coming up hundreds of miles before 79. So,
Sweet.
big
So,
PA on the road.
give us a little bit about what you're doing right now.
I think this is a lot of things because I'm a company driver, so all I know is where they tell me to go. So I'm not going to have a lot of information that you're going to want to.
Yeah, but most of our viewers don't even know
but
what you mean by company driver. That's what I mean. Give us a
yeah, exactly.
lowdown
I
on
was
what
going
you
to
are.
even say look up like trucker terms of '01 and 90, but I can say I think I'm hauling olive oil. And let me actually back up. I'm a tanker trucker driver. I did reefer, which is not what you think, and I was a little disappointed when I found out too. But,
That's why you're no longer a
'cause
reefer driver, right?
no, oh, dude. Nope, not for a few years now.
No, you mean
But,
refrigerant, right?
Yeah, refrigerated truck.
Yeah.
Haul anything from frozen chicken gizzards to ice cream to beer from negative 20 degrees to 78 Fahrenheit degrees or off if it's just like bottled water or whatever that doesn't have to have a temperature. So did that for a year and a half in a lightweight truck, which was the driver's seat, an empty space where the passenger seat used to be, and a bed. And that was my Cribs episode right there.
Cribs.
Dude, it was horrific. But then I switched to tanker, which in our company division, we do food grade oil in chocolate, liquid chocolate liqueur. So any kind of olive oil, soybean oil, veggie.
So you were driving like a massive chocolate fountain.
Yeah, 6,800 gallons.
Holy
chocolate.
crap!
Yeah,
that's a lot of chocolate.
48,000 pounds of it.
Dang.
Yeah. So if you ever want to take a swim, it might cost you about $200,000. But yeah. Well, the best part is that sometimes they send us with samples of the product, and I got to turn that in to the 90, which 90 is the delivery receiver, if you will. And sometimes they take it, sometimes they don't, and sometimes I get a pint of free sunflower oil. And I have to usually pump it myself, or I just back in, they take care of it all. But I open up the back cabinet where the motor of the pump is, pull out the hoses, hook it up to the building hose itself, and then pump it through. About an hour and a half later, I got to take it out of the building, suck it back in of any leftover. Maybe 10 gallons is fine. And I got to put everything back in. And then sometimes chocolate does drip, and I usually get my finger or a little coffee cup full of liquid chocolate. So, yeah.
Oh, hell yeah.
Sometimes that happens. Yeah.
See, I don't have any experience hauling liquid. I hauled dry goods for a while, dry cement, out to frac locations and things like that so we can case the well. Oh, I just got passed by a Post-Ed. It's like a mock-up of a FedEx truck. Sorry. But, yeah, I used to, we'd run about 81,000 pounds, but oil and gas industry, you were allowed to go over a lot. I think it was like, 6,000 pounds you were allowed to be overweight.
Okay, so gross would be 86.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right on.
And we'd have...
you don't know much about the surge then, do you?
No, I don't.
The liquid surge?
No.
Yeah. Go on to finish, but then I'll tell you about it because it freaked me out the first time.
Oh, I was just going to say that the dry goods we hauled them in Fruhoffs, and they were bottom unload. They had 3 tiers usually. and we called them bottles.
Usually with flour or sand, yeah.
Yeah. And we just pressurized the bottles just a little bit. I mean, we wouldn't put more than maybe 2 to 5 pounds in. And then what we would do is we'd have air running through the unload line from the back side of the bottles, and we'd just crack open the bottles, and gravity would do its thing, and we'd offload that way. And then you'd have to purge, like 12 times to get the bottles completely empty, or what they called empty, after smacking it with a rubber mallet or dead blow for a little bit.
Yeah. So did you have to deal with the word heel, which means leftover product?
Yeah. But we kept our own leftover product because we just reused it.
Okay.
Because we loaded all of our own material and stuff.
Yeah, I had to do that pressurized format one time where the valve wouldn't open. I guess the lever was stripped, and so there's in the back of the cabinet there's 2 exits. One is straight from the tank if the warehouse itself has a motor pump that draws it out, and then the bottom one, leaving the top one closed, the bottom one goes through our pump and hose, and it bypasses the top. So one time the bottom valve to the bottom pump that went through our motor was stuck, so they had to get like a airline, and I don't know how many psi's, not a lot, definitely no more than 10 psi, but we kept the dome closed, and then there's this thing up there that we were told is called the Christmas tree. I don't know if that's actually the term, but it is what it is. Hooked that up with air pressure. It took about 15 minutes for the tank to fill with pressure, and then we opened it up, and that actually worked a lot faster and got almost 100% of the product out because it was pushing it instead of pulling it.
Mm-hmm.
So that was lucky that they had that. But no, the surge is the less liquid you have, honestly, the worse it is, but the better NPG because you have less weight. But the surge is when there's when there's less liquid in it, it's got way more room
to move around.
Wave. Exactly. So I might pump my brakes harder, but not critically harder, and it'll feel like another truck rammed into me because the liquid will surge against the front of the tank, and the only thing that's keeping it connected is the 5th wheel kingpin, and that's metal on metal with some lube, and so I'll hear a ka-kunk, and for the first week or 2 it caught me off guard, but now I'm like, it is, yeah, that's what happened. But yeah, definitely something to get used to.
Yeah, the surge. I've heard of our water truck drivers dealing with that, and they'd say, you coming downhill into a turn, and you lock into that turn. When you come out the other side, it's going to go everywhere.
Yeah, side by side is way worse than front and back. But if you're slowing down on a hill, like getting off an off ramp, and you get to a stop sign, and that's even still on a decline, you got to like hammer the brake in because it'll come back and forth 5 times, and the pressure will move you forward. Yeah, liquid's no joke, but as a whole, I prefer tanks so much more than reefer tanking industry. Just for there's a window of a door that you've got to hit
with a reefer.
15 minutes plus you got to back it in, square it up right. Not with tanks.
Yeah.
You show up and they unload you. If there's enough room in their tank, they'll take you. If not, come back. Like, that's it.
Yeah, reefer, man. You've also got to make sure the fuel's right in that thing too. Keep up with that, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one time, the alarm system didn't go off for a low fuel warning. And usually I do check it. This particular time I was parked in Morgantown, West Virginia, off the exit 1 Walmart, and I know some dudes there. So I was sidetracked, should have checked it, but it ran dry. And my company got a final warning of empty, so they thought it was broken. And I said, no, like I know it's empty because not that I knew that I didn't check it, but when I go back, I'm going to show you, I'm going to prove you that it is empty. So I just had to go fill it up. I had to prime it, I think is the word, where you got to open up the motor cabinet, pump it like 500 times to draw like a lawnmower gas tank is empty. You got to do that little bubble thing to pull fuel in.
Right.
And yeah, that was a big hassle that I didn't let happen again.
Hey, you have to do the same thing with just about any diesel engine. When they run completely out of fuel, man, it's a nightmare to get them primed back up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was actually
cool.
supposed to be on a boat, a little dock boat in the Cheat River area that day. Luckily,
You cut out on me.
so I was actually just 20 minutes away rather than, hey, guys that are on a boat enjoying your day, drinking beer, I got to go. So let's turn this boat around and take me back and then call an Uber. And luckily, I was just hanging out at a restaurant. We had to bail on that early, but yeah, it was a hassle. So, nope, just the worst thing is with tanks, sometimes you have to keep it heated through the coolant of the engine, heating the tank.
Ooh.
And yeah, the worst things is that, and I still don't know why, but a valve will open because it's being pressured too much and it's got to let out coolant or whatever. And so because it's drawing coolant to heat the tank from my engine, now I'm spewing my truck's engine's coolant all over the back of my truck in front of my tank and all over the road. And now I'm out of coolant out of my truck. So I got to have like 6 gallons of coolant on me at all times in case that happens.
Is it like a burp tank or something, or is it a burp line? For when it's like
That's a good
overpressured?
description of what I probably said, but
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what it is.
That's crazy.
But yeah, it's a little annoying, but the best way to look at it is I can either pull money on my company card, which is quote in advance, but then they'll pay me it back when it comes back around. So it is what it is. Indirectly, I pay for it, but they pay me back. Or I can charge it to my credit card, get credit on my end personally, and cash back, and get paid back, and still come out ahead.
Yeah, there you go. Passing through off right now.
So, yeah, exactly. I don't know if I'm supposed to do it, but I'm allowed to do it that way. So that's helping my credit out. Because there was one time, my first load out, I forgot to. There's 4 levers from the coolant line. One is one direction out. One is to let it come back in. Another one is another one, and then the 4th one is from the Webasto heater system from when I'm parked. Because when I'm parked, my engine's not on. The APU is powering everything, and then that powers the heater itself, which heats it if it gets too cold, like in the middle of winter. And I didn't have one of them open that I forgot to open up. I thought I had all of them. The truck that I trained on had 3, and this one had 4, so I didn't see that one. And I made it from Savannah to, I don't know, Wisconsin, somewhere way up there. And I got there, and a prime driver was waiting in front of me. And I was like, hey, man, I need some help. So he opened it up, and it turns out that I had a big gash in one of my hoses. And that's another story that I want to get into. Cause dude, my first 2 weeks was a nightmare. It took me a week and a half to get from Springfield, Missouri to Savannah because of complications of just, might as well. Why not? Let's make everything that goes wrong with me. So.
That's how it happens, though. Especially when you just start out.
Exactly.
But it's good because then you learn how to handle the situation and how not to stress out and stuff.
Yeah.
Like when I used to travel across the U.S., man, I hauled chemicals, not not enough to where I'd have to have a hazmat or anything like that. It was just under, so I'd have like 100 gallons of mercaptan on the truck. It was in a box truck and everything, but I'd have the whole toolkit, what we call a toolkit for location, in the truck. So it wasn't overweight, but I was so close. And one time, where was I? I think it was Iowa. I had to go through a weigh station as soon as I got into Iowa, and I actually got held up there. They wanted to see what was in the truck. They pulled everything. I was in a rental truck, so they wanted my registration and everything. So I gave it to them. Well, it turns out the registration was dead in this rental, so I had to call the rental company. Huh?
Which is not your fault.
Yeah, which is not my fault. So I had to call the rental company on a Sunday and try to get them to fax it over to this weigh station. I ended up sitting there for like 4.5 hours while they were waiting just on the registration to be faxed over. And they went through that truck with a fine-tooth comb, man. I mean, it was ridiculous. That turned into my worst state that I ever drove through. Yeah, I couldn't stand it.
Was that a rental car, a personal transporting, or were you?
No, it was commercial.
On company because of a commercial. Okay. With that, did you have e-logs? Because
not at the time. They didn't even have e-logs back then.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Which is another thing, which is different. Like OG, the truckers complain about it, and I totally get it, because 15. Actually, dude, we're about the same age. Have you ever honestly been lost?
No. Well,
exactly,
check this out.
Because of GPS.
Right.
You've only been rerouted.
In Detroit one time, the GPS had me lost. I will say that. It had me all over the place.
Yeah. Right. Or just continuous rerouting.
Exactly. That's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, all right, lady, where do I go now?
Yeah.
Basically. And Pittsburgh and cities are the worst because it's roads stacked on roads, and she thinks you're somewhere else. But no, man, we've never been lost.
Right.
And 15 years ago, I couldn't imagine. And I started touring too, and we can get into that later. Touring with a GPS, and like I did go to the Post Cadet Pavilion. And if you want to say I'm wrong, that's the name of the pavilion, and that's what I am keeping to call it, whatever it's called now, where Warped Tour was. We got lost with GPS printed out directions, MapQuest. But no, man,
MapQuest.
MapQuest, yeah. I got a trucker's GPS. I got the truck GPS that's through the QC Qualcomm, and then I got Google Maps for traffic updates and different routes. So I got, and then the Atlas, which I honestly have not pulled out, but in case everything goes down, that's my last resort. But I'm never lost. So GPS is a godsend. And so 15 years ago, before it really got good, these truckers would have to, and Kel's, his dad was a trucker, and he would be his navigator pretty much when he was on the road with them. But, dude, I couldn't imagine getting off the exit of 3 miles where you're supposed to get to, having 20 directions in 3 miles. I get lost going from the guard check to the unload site. They're like, go past this, take a right. I'm like, hold on. I know I'm a driver, but I would rather annoy you now than get lost later. And I'm talking within a warehouse. I don't want to get held up in, because I got 50 feet behind me on a fifth wheel. It's a bitch to get in a tight spot. So I'd rather annoy you now than get messed up later. But, yeah, so trucking is so much easier now. So much easier. With the technology, the comfortability with the seat that I'm sitting on. Yeah, man, couldn't imagine it. But the reason why I started all that is e-logs. And I get it, but at the end of the day, if I run out of hours, man, I'm out of hours. There's nothing I can do. So if I get held up at a truck at a weigh station for 4 hours, I get held up for 4 hours, and I only have 14 hours in a day that I can run. And if I waste 4 hours, then I gotta tell my dispatch, hey man, I was held up here. Technically, really not my fault, but I wasted 4 hours, and now I have this many less hours to drive today because of the e-logs. And back in the day, truckers could say, get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, drive 6 hours, stop, get some lunch, drive for 4 more hours. Now that's 10 hours. Take a quick 3 hour power nap, and whatever time it is then, math, drive then for another 5 hours. And that would be 15 plus hours in a 24-hour shift.
Yeah.
You can technically only drive for 11 hours in a day,
Right.
but you have 14 hours to drive in that, and you can only do it 8 hours at a time. So I get the hassle, but all of that is made up for in electronic logging, which paper logs I've done twice now, and I gotta remember where I started, what time I stopped, how I just blah blah of making ticks of. I'll take restricted time limits to just clocking in and going. It's a complete hassle, but I get it, because then you can't drive as long, and that's why team drivers are more in demand, because a single driver has to stop for 10 hours before you get a new clock of 14 hours. And there's other math of splitting 8 and 2, and I don't even get that. I try not to mess with that, but I get it. It's just, no thanks, man. I'd rather never be lost, never personally record my time, and at the end of the day, it's not my fault.
So you don't have to record your time at all? They run completely by your e-log?
Does. Yeah.
Okay. Because even when I started running e-log, this was back at the beginning of, actually it was the end of 2019. They hadn't made it mandatory yet for us, but I mean, they were working on it. I still had to run paper logs.
Yeah. I think
with the e-log.
Most small companies that stay within, let's say, 200 miles of their headquarters or wherever don't have to do e-logs. But I think it's getting to where if you're a trucking company, you have to have e-log QC equipped in your truck, which is pissing a lot of smaller businesses off too.
Well, what we had running mail, they had us get this app on our phone, and then they had us running it all the time. It was hooked up into the GPS of the truck directly with USB, and it ran just like an e-log. I mean, when you shut the truck off, it logged everything, things like that. Yeah. But a lot of people were getting mad because they weren't paying us to use our phone whenever that was using so much data.
No doubt.
So I was actually part of testing on that, and one thing we did, they had me run, which I covered a bunch of different routes anyway. I covered the Davis, West Virginia route. I covered Burnsville. I covered the Morgantown. I was just all over the place. Most of the time I ran from Morgantown to Pittsburgh.
All over the place. What was that, 200 miles?
Huh?
I go the whole country.
Well, I mean, I was all over the place as far as my route goes.
I know.
Like, I didn't have one set route most generally. And I would run from PA to Morgantown twice a night, usually. And downtown Pittsburgh, right across the West End Bridge, there's a distribution down there. Jay Ramsey, this is very cool. Yes, it is. This is pretty cool, man. We got Clip on the line. Clip, you can't see the chat, but Jay Ramsey just said this is very cool.
I cannot. Nice. Actually, can you text me a link?
Yeah.
Now that I show you my phone?
Yeah, let me get my truck to the side of the road real quick because I'm not supposed to be texting and driving. Yeah, just 1 second, man. I'm stopped at a stoplight. You have Twitch? I just sent you the link. Nope, our call dropped. Texting and driving. That's what we get. Safe.
Hey man, sometimes that happens.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I'm texting and driving.
Yeah, yeah. Put your phone down. I was playing GTA 5 with Kel a few times ago when I was in, and at that time, long-winded story, but at that time I was looking at cars and vehicles to buy, which finally bought a pretty sweet ride that I had when I met you. But I was looking at different diesel trucks to pull an RV for an idea that kind of changed from then. But I'm not a fan of trucks. I'm not getting it because I wanted a truck. I got a truck. I was looking at trucks because I needed a truck to be a truck.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the way I play GTA is probably the way 99% of people play is, let's fuck some shit up. Let's not play the game.
Right.
Catch people, kill people, see how many stars we can get, and that's how you play, really. But I was, I got out of a hospital because that's how my turn started. And so I got a car, drove 3 minutes, saw another cool car, drove for a few minutes. So that's how I play. I'm like, nope, I want to drive that car. Nope, I want to drive that car. And after a couple of cars, I realized the only cars I was driving were trucks. And I'm so mad at myself because I was in the mindset of looking at trucks, and I kept picking trucks. So I was really upset about myself about that. But then I found a semi-truck. I was like, oh, I gotta drive that. So it was hooked up to a reefer. So I was like actually trying to drive it like I would drive it. And then I started driving it how I would like to drive it, which is not safe. So
Right.
So I accidentally pressed the camera angle, and it was inside the cab, which is pretty cool. But then in that, I pressed another button that pulled up my phone. And Kel was like, "Hey man, put your phone down. You're driving your truck." So don't be on your phone when you're in a truck.
No texting and driving.
So now that I said that, I am not on my phone right now, texting someone to look at that link.
I just blew by a cop who was sitting on an off ramp. Speed limit's 55. I was going 78.
Oh, speaking of 55, I am governed at. Okay, actually, no. I don't care. Like I said, it's not my fault. Give me rules. I'll get to the line, and I won't cross it. But again, it's not my fault. But I'm never late. I do my job right. But as a company driver for this company, Prime Incorporated, based out of Springfield, Missouri, little plug, company driver, with my foot to the floor, I can only get to 58 miles an hour.
Yeah.
With cruise control, and I don't know why, I can get to 63 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And even bobtail, and I'm not even going to explain these terms. I'm going to leave it open for people to look it up.
Bobtail means you don't have a trailer on.
Right. Or as my granny calls it, bobcatting it.
Bobcatting it.
Yeah, she kept getting it wrong. I was like, yeah, I'm a bobcatting it. Bobtailing it. I went from Springfield, Missouri, bobtailing to Salt Lake City. Now, I'm company. If I'm driving, I'm getting paid. If you own or operator or lease your truck, you got to pay for everything except for maintenance and reefer fuel on the trailer. So again, I'm company. You tell me to go somewhere, and I'm getting paid. I really don't care.
Right.
But that was 1,200 miles, and I messaged my dispatcher from the QC. I was like, are you sure you meant to say Salt Lake? Because that's 1,200 miles away. He's like, yeah. I was like, okay, I'll talk to you in 3 days because I can only drive this amount of time and I have to stop for 10 hours. And I was like, well, I'll get there. He said, yeah, let me know. So still, open road, middle of nowhere. Speed limit is 80 miles some places. 55 miles an hour.
Not your truck, huh?
So it might bother people, not me. And it might piss people off. And my brother was saying, and I don't get road rage. I get road really, like, why, man? And so he was like, does that piss you off? And I told him my end game is February, and I said, at the end of the day, I still have to drive until February.
Yeah.
So I really don't care. I'll get there. And the slower I drive, the better MVG I get. And being company, I get fuel bonuses. So again, the slower I drive, the safer I am, the more fuel bonus I get for the allotted fuel estimation of that load. They back pay me some reward for being safe, driving slow, and saving them fuel. So, again, at the end of the day, I'll get there. It's not my fault, and I get paid to go slow.
I actually have a video of one of those really moments. When,
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, let me see if I can find it here. It was definitely questionable. I'm trying to pull it up.
Yeah. And whoever's listening after this, if they want to YouTube brake check fails semi something, some people, and I'll take full fault at this too, but up until I started trucking, I wasn't giving truckers the amount of respect that they should get. And I don't mean this fully, but I do. But as a professional driver, and that's what we're called now for some reason instead of truckers.
That's for insurance purposes.
Yeah. At the benefit of the doubt of me as a trucker, as a professional driver, I am correct for a few reasons. One, I'm a professional. I should know what's correct. Whether I'm wrong or not, I should know better.
Mm-hmm.
So if I mess up, I shouldn't. I should know what's correct. Also, you, as a four-wheeler driver, you are not correct. You are not a professional driver. You are driving for privilege, not a right.
Mm-hmm.
Also, if you wreck, you might disappoint a mother. If I wreck, I can devastate a whole community.
Oh, yeah.
Which is horrible to say, but it's true. So if you think I'm wrong, I'm probably not, but also get out of my way because I might be wrong, but my reaction time for the truck is way slower than
Mm-hmm.
a tiny little car, and I can see much higher and much farther than you, and I'll get off my high horse in a second, than a car. But as a professional driver, I should be correct, and this is me speaking. I'm very methodical, planned out for my decision. So what I do for decision one might not look correct, but in 5 decisions, what I did 5 steps ago will prevent something that I saw. Again, get out of my way.
Right.
Even if you think I'm wrong. Anyway, my little
your little
my
rant.
little high horse of a
I agree with you though.
And,
I do because I've lived it too. You know, in going in Pittsburgh, I can't remember what is it, 270. Yeah, I think it's 270 east. But anyway, Green Tree Hill. Coming down the other side of that, I'd be fully loaded. You know, I'd just be in a 26-foot box truck, but, you know, it had trucks down to 25 miles an hour. You know, they had a brake check place right at the top of the hill and everything. But I'd come down through there, dude, and four-wheelers would come right out in front of you. They'd weave in and out between you and another truck whenever you're, you know, trying to stay in the right lane. You know, we're both low gear riding. I mean, I had the exhaust brake running and I was in low gear creeping down the hill, and I know they were running low. and they'd weave in and out of us. And it's like, what are you gaining? You're not gaining any kind of position in the left lane. Like, why do that?
You're gaining 3/4 of a second.
Not even. I mean, they were losing, if anything, But I'm going to get this YouTube video pulled up. I just sent you the link. It's only like a 30-second video on my personal channel. And it's of the truck I had. Let me give you a little backstory on it. It had a collision mitigation system in it. Have you had any kind of dealings with those yet?
Yeah, which I do enjoy for times that I happen to not being paying attention at the right moment. But at the same time, it does malfunction, and if I'm going under an overpass, it might react and brake check itself, which is kind of annoying, but I'd rather have that sometimes than others sometimes if needed.
Well, I'm going to play the video.
It goes,
on the stream real quick so everyone else can see it. This was me coming up to Pittsburgh, the main Pittsburgh exit off of 79. I wasn't quite there yet. I was in the middle lane, roughly 60, 65 miles an hour. And this car, one car you'll see goes off in front of me, but then they quickly jump to the next lane. The next car jumps in front of me and then slams on their brake for no apparent reason whatsoever. And you'll hear the beeping of the collision mitigation system. And on top of all this, it's raining like hell and it's at night. And the collision mitigation system locked in and locked up my back tires. And I was fishtailing on the road. You can't tell it by the dash cam because it has that stabilizer in it. But this was pretty scary. Just letting it play. See that one car jumps over. Well, he goes over to the next lane. Now this one right here on the right, watch him. Okay, right now you would not normally do this. No blinker. And then boom, brakes. Right there you hear the beeping. And luckily there was no one in the left lane and I could just kind of drift over. But that was one of those moments, like, really? Why? Why would you do that? I know you didn't get to see it, man. I sent you the link, so if you do get a minute to stop and check it out, it's one of those times. It was just like, why? Because if that collision mitigation system, wasn't in my truck, I could not. My reaction time, I'll be honest, I could not have stopped in time or swerved fast enough to avoid them. And people like that, they don't think about it. I mean, you see headlights coming from behind you. I mean, even if they didn't even look in their mirror, I mean, they bound to have seen the lights. And it's from a big truck.
Close enough, your lights are too high to see, for them to see your lights in their rearview mirror if you get too close. Right,
but you'll see the video, and you'll see what I mean. Yeah. It's one of those just like, why even get in that lane, Yeah. And I wasn't supposed to be in the left lane as a truck. The far left lane. I was in the middle lane. I was passing slower traffic that was getting off exits and things like that. Because you've ran up through that part of 79, I know. It's 3 lanes. You've got 3 lanes to work with, but you're only allowed to be in 2. Luckily there was no one in that left lane, and I was able to get over there for a minute and avoid hitting them. But it's one of those moments. It's just like, why? So I know your pain with that.
A lot of those.
Yeah, I bet you do, man. I know your pain with that. Like, even though I ran a set route, I was in downtown Pittsburgh, and I saw some horrific accidents, man. On the West End Bridge, I was setting at the light. I was actually 5 minutes late one day, later than usual. I was setting at the light, and I've got a picture of this, but normally I'd beat that light. I had the lights timed down. That's how much I ran this route, okay? But I was stuck at this light right at the bridge, and the traffic came in on the right, and it's a 4-lane bridge if you've never been there. And it's very tight lanes. Like my mirrors would be right over top of the lane lines. That's how tight it was. And so they had oncoming traffic both ways on this bridge, and this one vehicle was going a little too fast and didn't get over in their lane quick enough, and I mean they hit head on, and the whole bridge just started piling up, man, and it was horrible. Instantly 4 people died on the first impact.
Damn.
and it just piled up. I think it was like 20 some car pile up. I've still got the news post somewhere, but it happened right in front of me. And I was just thinking, this day I was late for a reason, to keep me from being that guy, and cause it wouldn't have hurt me most likely being in the truck, but I would have done a hell of a lot more damage than what that pickup truck did, and,
Oh yeah.
I had to reroute all the way through downtown Pittsburgh. Luckily, I tell you what, this is a shout out to the law enforcement and paramedics there, the first responders, because it was literally 2 minutes after impact. And I had this on dash cam somewhere, but it was like 2 minutes after impact. There was a police officer sitting right beside me at the light, and they were directing traffic and everything. And that's amazing, especially in a city that is that busy. But they rerouted me through town. I actually followed a cop through town to my distribution center and still wasn't late. And those first responders, man, like they are on it.
Yeah, man.
I mean, that was pretty impressive. Like, because I was allotted 15 minutes because of the accident. Running post, man, running the mail, it's all about time management, and that's the reason I was going to get to the govern thing. They tried governing the trucks at 60 miles an hour, running up and down 79 right there, and there's just no way, man. You can't make time. They had to raise it up, but my truck I could get up to 68, and that's if I was going downhill, feathering the throttle, getting it to play right at the governor, and then I'd set cruise right after that, and I would never lose it, even going up and down the hills fully loaded. Yeah. But awesome. It took a little play, man. You just had to feather that throttle, but it was automatic too. It wasn't standard. But that accident, man, it scared me.
Yeah, I haven't
it put
seen
me
anything
gun-shy.
like that in person of that extent, or really anything bad in front of me. There was 2 winters ago, which my last 2 winters I haven't. I mean, last winter was there a winter anywhere? But
right.
My routes have been pretty safe. The worst thing that happened with me in the winter is that I was probably in Nebraska on 80, and I parked for the night. I woke up to a closed interstate. I hung out all day. Again, not my fault. Went back to sleep and got up. The road was open, and that's the worst that's ever happened. Weather-wise, the snow. It was like I woke up, it was closed. I hung out all day, went back to sleep, and continued on with my route. And again, not my fault. The dispatch got with sales to tell them. So, but be on time when you can. But when it's not your fault, it's not your fault.
Right. Yeah, but the post, man, they didn't care. I mean, even though that wreck was there, they expected, you to be there, and it's things like that, man. It was tough.
When I was doing reefer with Walmart warehouses, and this is with reefer with dock doors, especially with Walmart, you got 15-minute window. If you're late, you have to wait until the next shift has an open window, which could be hours or the next day hours. So it's kind of,
man, it
is what it is because it's Walmart, but it's a big hassle, especially if you can't literally get there because it's covered. But that's interesting that you say with the 68, if you can get there, you can cruise. Even if I'm going above 65, if I hit my cruise, it only sets at 63, and then it goes to 63. But legally, though, with Prime specifically, if you go 80 or above twice, you're out.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
For safety.
Yeah, obviously.
For tires can blow up at real high speeds like that for any amount of time.
Yeah,
but
if you got that much weight on too.
Yeah, with Prime specifically, safety is numero uno, man. Like if we're late, fine, sucks to suck, but get there safely.
Shit.
And there's one phrase that they told us in training, and I forget how it goes, but it's like, no load is too hot that won't cool down in a ditch, or something like that.
Huh. It's crazy. I know this is off topic, but in the game, I just came up to an accident on one of the off ramps, and now I'm having to reroute.
All right.
It's crazy.
Yeah. The funniest thing about the virtual thing is that we had to do that driving test and then a backing. And backing was real tough because backing is real tough.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude. But once you get the big picture, it's really easy if you can see mentally above where you are and do the picture. You get used to it, but it's tough. But in the training though, one of the training montages is that they tell you if there's a animal in the road, hit it. Do not swerve to miss.
Yeah.
Especially with liquid. Yeah. So one of the stages was an elk shows up out of nowhere, and it surprised me. But
and elk aren't small.
yeah, it surprised me more out of shock that I couldn't react quick enough to hit it, even if I thought about trying to hit it, or to not hit it.
Yeah.
So I got to hit an elk in the training, which was
did it
sweet.
splatter everywhere?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. 'Cause, yeah, and especially being company, I don't pay for anything. If a windshield cracks, if I blow a tire, if it's not my fault, they'll pay for it. If it is my fault, I might get a mark, maybe a warning or whatever, but they'll pay for it because I'm pretty much just using the truck. And the difference between company and lease is, again, they pay me to drive. The end.
Yeah.
Lease owner-operator is they pay you more, but at the end of the day, you got to pay for fuel. You got to pay for tolls. It's your truck. If a thing hits your windshield and it cracks, you got so many inches before you got to replace it. It comes out of your pocket. So you're making more. You're owning your truck. After 3 years, you'll stop paying on your truck, and you'll start really making money. But me specifically, I had a 3-year goal. I don't want that headache.
Right.
Just pay me to drive, and I'll get there.
Yeah, see, I was a
Basically,
company
so-
driver too. I've never owned my own truck. I was always a company
Yeah.
driver. I wouldn't dare even start a lease agreement.
No.
That is that's a mistake. I don't know anyone.
It's a nightmare of paperwork.
Yeah.
And fear too, because one of my friends who's doing it. Side story. They're married, teaming with a 40-pound dog.
Wow.
Never would I know.
Wow.
Never would I ever, one, have a dog with me, because then you got to stop and take it out.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't want to deal with anybody, especially my spouse. Because if I love them, I would enjoy to continue loving them for as long as possible. And that's not going to happen when you're teaming, because yes, you're 5 feet from each other at all times, which is a thing in itself. But teaming is teaming, which means when you're driving, that other guy's sleeping.
Right.
And when you're sleeping, that means the other person is driving, which means you're sleeping while it's being driven, which is a little uncomfortable to sleep while you're on the road.
I couldn't do
and
it.
it's real uncomfortable to sleep knowing someone else is driving and you're trying to sleep soundly.
Like I love my
without
wife to
fear
death, but
of
that's one
wrecking.
thing I can't handle her driving. So I would never be able to run teams with my
know.
wife.
Dude, and the thing about me is that the reason why I did trucking mostly is because I was done slum life in it, having roommates as a 30-year-old. But I actually enjoy driving.
Right.
The act of it, I don't hate it. I don't get road rage. I get road really. The driving is what I enjoy. But then again, I'm sitting in a chair holding the steering wheel going straight for 5 hours straight. So it's hardly driving, but I don't hate it. And that's the point. But when I was on tour, in a tour van, I would volunteer the after the show midnight shift of driving.
Yep.
For 3 main reasons. Not a big drinker, so I'm not worried about trying not to drink too much and then trying to drive.
Yeah.
My equipment and drums is way more expensive than anybody else's equipment in the band with me.
So you trust
and
your
I'm
own
not
driving.
trying to, exactly. And I trust my driving way more, no matter what level of drunk or what time of the day or night. I would rather put myself in the driver's seat over the, especially nighttime driving. So yeah, that would no way.
That was what
would not want-
I ran when I had my route. I would start at 3 in the afternoon, and I'd get to Morgantown about. I just ran a red light talking to you. I'd get to Morgantown about 5-ish, and be loaded and everything, be out of there. By the time I got to Pittsburgh, it'd start getting dark, depending on the time of the year. You know, it'd already be dark at times.
Yeah.
But then I'd run all night up until about 4 in the morning, and I tell you what, man, that's the time to run. You couldn't get me. I would come out of Pittsburgh about 7-8 o'clock, and going back to Morgantown, and dude, the traffic was already like slowed down from what do they call it, rush hour or whatever. It had already died down from that, but if there was a ball game or something like that, dude, getting in and out of that place was an absolute nightmare, man. And Christmas time, I actually started running that route at Christmas, and I'll never forget. I've never seen it like that since then. But it was literally bumper to bumper on 79, 3 lanes all the way, even down past coming into West Virginia and everything. Like, it was horrible. It was a nightmare, dude. It looked like Christmas lights.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, and time of the day driving, I would much rather, like you said, drive at night. And that might not be some people, but one, I'm a musician, so the nighttime is my time.
Yeah, that's it.
But no one's out.
Yeah.
It's quiet. No one else is on the road. You don't see anything but the road, which might seem monotonous, but when you're trying to pay attention to the road, and that's the only thing you can see,
less distractions.
I prefer that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, my biggest thing with driving at night was, I never thought about that, but it's probably the same thing. One of those with the less distractions, but the biggest thing for me was the other cars. There's less people on the road. So I mean, you're less likely to have those really moments. So, you're heading to Illinois?
I think.
You think? You just followed the GPS?
Yeah. Dude, I don't know. Henning, Illinois. And something real interesting about this, that I'll get to in a second, but with reefer, I did that for about a year and a half, and I did the entire country. So any given new load, I had no idea which I'd never done until I know. But with reefer, it was countrywide,
right.
Anywhere. So.
And now you just try to stay East Coast?
Usually with tanker, but the point is that with reefer, we have so many destination options and customers and destinations. In the year and a half, I can maybe think of 10 places that I went to more than once. Now, in tanker, almost a year in, I could maybe think of 10 places that I've only been to once.
Right.
So when I say I think this is where I'm at and this is where I think I'm going, that's real.
Yeah.
Because I literally have no idea. But Henning, funny thing about this specific place is that the warehouse that I'm going to is bigger than the township that it's part of.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Like Google Satellite, you'll see the area where the warehouse picks up, and then right next to it is this tiny little suburb that is barely the size of the warehouse itself.
Yeah.
And it's it's strange. Because you go to the middle of nowhere places to deliver that you would never think about going or think about ever existing. Oh, by the way, when you were playing your video, I'm sure watching the video through a computer, or headphones or whatever, you can hear your beeping. I didn't, which is different. But I'm wondering, can you hear in a few seconds a buzzer right now? Do you hear any kind of buzz?
No. No.
Through the microphone? Okay. That's the berm indicator, and I got 2 sensors on both of my sides of the trucks that if I hit the white line, it'll buzz at me and say, hey, you're not on the road anymore, before I hit the bumble strip.
Wow.
And then the bumble strip will route of the truck. But it is such a constant noise that I don't even realize that I hear it until after I react to it. And I'll be talking to my dad or anybody, and before he knew what that noise was, he asked me what that was. I was like, oh, it didn't even register. It's just a second thought that is behind me. I'm not even paying attention to it. So I was wondering if you could even hear it, because I barely hear it anymore.
Yeah, I had in that truck that I drove, it would beep if I was too close to someone and if I wasn't matched speed with them. And it was kind of like the same thing. I would never even notice it.
Yeah. No, just react to it and didn't even know what happened. But I got a question about your cruise control, though. Because with my cruise control, say I got it set at 55, and I am just going on a level road, and I get behind somebody that's going, say, 50 miles an hour. My cruise control will actually slow me
Slow
down.
you down, yep.
Yeah, so it's more of
to match speed.
Cruise match instead of cruise control, which is really helpful. So the less I have to, quote, pay attention to,
right,
the more I can actually pay attention to what I didn't realize that I had to be paying attention to.
See,
so
in my truck, it was
nice.
actually called speed control instead of cruise.
Speed control, okay.
And if you didn't have it on, the truck wouldn't slow down when you got up behind someone.
Right.
So if you turn your speed control off, the collision mitigation system wouldn't slow you down if you came up on someone. But if you had it on and didn't have it set and you were just running by the pedal, it would still slow you down when you came up behind someone. You could give it all the pedal you want. Yeah, you can give it all the pedal you want. You wouldn't get anywhere.
Okay.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, really helpful. And I wish I could have it in my car.
Right.
Another thing that. Yeah, right. It's probably situated and in line with the same computer system, but on my dash of where my speedometer is, one of the screens that I can go to is it says how many feet ahead the next vehicle is and how many seconds ahead that vehicle is. And the easiest math that I can imagine trying to describe it as is, if I'm going 60 miles an hour, it keeps me
3 seconds.
400 feet behind and 4 to 6 seconds from them.
See, mine was 3 seconds is what it would do. It would keep me exactly 3 seconds, or try to at its best.
Yeah.
3 seconds, but it's also probably the weight that I was compared to you.
Okay.
You're
right.
a lot higher weight. I was probably only close to 40,000 total.
Usually double that.
Yeah, exactly. That's my point. So it probably keeps you about 5 seconds away. Because back in the day, the rule of thumb with the tractor trailer was 5 car lengths at least. That was a minimum.
Or truck length. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that was at not even highway speeds. So it's probably something like that. But it was handy having the amount of seconds too. The way they listed it on there, which I've got a dock right now.
So do you have a wheel?
No, I'm using a controller.
Controller, okay.
This was kind of a spur of the moment thing, but I wanted to get you on here, and I figured it'd be pretty cool to be playing this game.
Oh, dude, I'm sure Gestureline has a much better thing for this, but strangely enough, I was just going through my grandma's house last time I was in with my dad, because they're trying to gather everything up and donate and sell and get rid of the house, I found probably a Dreamcast steering wheel and pedal setup that
What?
possibly was Kels's back in the day.
Dreamcast.
So I don't know if that even... Dude, Dreamcast, I gotta say personally my favorite console.
I'm not gonna disagree,
my favorite
man.
game ever was Sonic Adventure and Crazy Taxi.
Yeah, Crazy Taxi.
Kind of says, might say something about my job right now.
Your drive on GTA, anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm sure Line can get present day, because that's probably maybe 20 years old. So. But yeah, how funny is that? But yeah.
That is docked. So,
this might be. Yeah, what's up?
I was gonna say, you got any good, like, just funny, random? What's the most random thing you've seen on the road?
Well, one section of that answer will definitely be road really rants, but something out of the ordinary. Besides the general deja vu of thinking that I've been there before, happens very, very often because places blend. Times that I've been somewhere might be logged in the back of my brain that I don't think about until I get there again. So, general strangeness, just deja vu, really. But actually, yeah, today I was on 80 or 76 or 78, 80 West in PA, and there's a little. The closest thing I can describe it is as the Alienware skateboard logo.
Mm-hmm.
I saw something like that graffitied on an underpass pillar, and I've only seen that 3 times now. So deja vu is one of the strangest things. But okay.
Yeah, and
I
bet it happens a lot too, doesn't it? Deja vu.
And I'll go to warehouses where I check into the guard shack. And every time, it's like, have you been here before? And every time I say no, because probably have, but it could be 6 months ago. Who knows?
Right.
If I even remember ever being there. And a few weeks ago, I was at some place that I told the guard shack that I hadn't been there before, and I believe that. I didn't realize that I had been there before, but I checked in with the guard shack, looped around the warehouse to where I would be parked to unload my tank, and until I made the very last corner and saw where I would be parked, it hit me. I'm like, oh, yeah, I guess I have been here before. So that's why I say no, I've never been here before, because maybe I have, maybe I haven't, but pretend I haven't, because I have no idea. Yeah, but I have been running out of things to watch and listen to on like Netflix or YouTube, but I've been, for some strange reason, listening to and watching when I'm taking a break, like anything that's related to creepy horror stories, the Mandela effect, cryptids, shadow people, alien sightings, ghost cars, whatnot, abnormal activity.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen anything like that.
Right.
Which I'm kind of upset about, or not upset about. I don't know.
I'd be kind of upset about it. Have you ever seen it's an old truck driving movie called Black Dog. Have you ever heard of that?
Okay. No.
Okay. The whole point of the Black Dog name of it was, these truck drivers driving for long hours. This before electronic logs and before they really enforced it. Everyone just kind of did their own hours, what they could handle. But if you drove
they took
long enough
to drive 18 hours in a row.
Yeah.
Let's just say that.
Well, if you would drive long enough and you saw what they called the black dog run out in the road, I guess when you start seeing shadows out the corner of your eyes and stuff.
Oh yeah.
If you started seeing a black dog, you needed to stop. And man, I'll tell you what, driving 7 days straight one time, a couple days personal, and the rest was on company time. I got to where I was seeing like just, it wasn't really a dog or anything like that. It was just like shadows where I had trails with moving with the lights and stuff where I was just so tired.
Ooh,
And I've had to stop before, but
that's
it's funny because it reminded me of that movie, and I haven't seen that movie since I was a kid, man. Like it was actually my mom watching it or something. But
wow.
I never
Yeah, I
forgot
have to
that
check
part.
that out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know anything
Uh,
else about the movie other than that part. So, I mean, I was just a young
yeah,
kid when I saw it, but I'll never forget that.
yeah, right. The weirdest thing that I've experienced with driving for too long and experiencing uh, something like that is uh, it's dark, it's snowing enough, but not bad, but it is snowing. And there's no one else on the road, no lights, nothing that I can reference distance to. But so I can only see the road.
Hmm.
It's dark, it's snowing, and it's on a straightaway. There's no curves or anything, and I again see nothing but the road. And probably what you're experiencing right now, if your camera view is within the cab, you know you're driving,
Hmm.
but you also know that you're sitting still and the screen is coming at you,
Right,
type of
right,
deal.
right.
That happened with me later in a shift when I was like 2 hours away from being done, and it was dark. I was tired. It was long days followed by longer days, and like what I just described, it felt like I was sitting in a room with a TV screens around me, and the screen was coming at me. So I wasn't moving. The platform under me, the treadmill, was what was moving, and it seemed like I was sitting still because I had nothing to reference on. The snow was coming down. I didn't see the fact that I was moving. So the perception of that was the creepiest, I guess, thing that I can think of. It was real weird, and that's happened a few times. So I think I drove for 40 minutes after that to the first spot that I found to pull over. Because, yeah, I don't – when you start to not see what you're looking at, it's real weird.
Yeah, it's almost like your eyes, just like the focusing. I'm going to say focusing mechanic of your eyes itself just kind of like stop working.
Yeah.
That's what happened to
I'm
me
playing
sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was some scary stuff happened to me on the road, man. I've had a lot of close calls, and none of them were really my fault. You know, I almost rear-ended this truck because thank you, Kevin. Because they bowed up and stopped at a red light, but it was green and hadn't turned red.
Oh, no.
And it was one of those coal mine utility trucks, you know, the ones that work on the big equipment. So, I mean, it was as big as me, just not as heavy probably at the time.
Yeah.
Gross weight it probably matched, but you know, and it just bowed up and stopped, man. I barely missed it, dude. Like the collision mitigation system, once again, it kicked in, but I swerved in between it and the guardrail, and I don't know how I fit in between the guardrail and this truck, but it was right at a light too, so I had the light poles, you know, the big ones that come over the highway. I had those to contest with, and I don't know how I missed it, man. That was one of the last times. That was actually the last week I drove because I was just, man, this is getting too out of hand. People were too stupid. You know, they don't care.
Yeah.
You know, they don't respect you in the weight that you're carrying. You know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it takes a good football field, fully loaded semi, to come to a respectable stop without slamming on your brakes. It takes a minute.
Yeah.
To come down from even 50 miles an hour.
Yeah, because you're hauling what, close to 70-some, 80,000 pounds total.
Yeah. I think. My load weight, I think for this one is 47,000 something pounds.
But what's your truck and trailer?
Yeah. No more than 80,000 pounds.
There you go. So I mean, 80,000 pounds.
So, yeah,
I mean, for anyone out there who does math, 80,000 pounds by 50 miles per hour, that mass,
right.
What it would do to a 4,000 pound car.
Right.
It's
Obliterate.
yeah. There's I've honestly been lucky enough to never see something like that and never
Yeah.
be part of that. But it's
It's like when
scary.
an unstoppable object meets a watermelon.
Yes,
Basically.
exactly. I mean, a lot of people have seen what a bullet does to a watermelon. I mean, imagine if a bullet
Yeah.
weighed
Close.
20 to 30 times more than that watermelon.
Right. Yeah. Dude. But yeah, going back to the strange things, nothing creepy or annoying or whatever, but in my personal life, we can get into that too. I'm a drummer. I started doing stand-up comedy a couple years ago at open mics, and I write poetry and perform spoken word. And as lame as that sounds, you're right. But
I didn't say it.
It's
I didn't
much
say it.
cooler than it comes off. It's much cooler. I haven't figured out how to sell it in the right way to convince someone to actually give me a minute. But either way, besides that, the strange and funny things that I have seen, I have put in like Mitch Hedberg one-liners.
Oh, Mitch Hedberg.
Story.
You just brought up
Dude,
Mitch
yeah.
Hedberg, man. I'm going to put my gloves in my glove
Dude.
box.
Yeah.
Dude, he's
Yeah.
classic, man.
Yeah. But the funniest few things that I've seen is that, okay, whoever's listening, and even you, Ryan, I'm sorry, was it Doc Frame?
Yeah.
Cool. Because at the beginning of this, you said that, and I forgot to bring that up, but if you didn't say that, and you said we're on with Ryan and Clip, I'd be like, no. You got to have a CB handle.
Yeah. It's
If
always
we're
been
gonna be
Doc,
talking
man.
trucks and playing that game. Yeah, Doc Frame, sweet. And real funny thing about that is on my driver profile that my dispatcher has for me, when I was meeting him, he was signing me up, typing out my truck number, and on my profile there was a blank spot that said CB name. And so, just already knowing my answer, I said, "Hey, what's that CB name spot for?" And he explained, "Oh, that's CB radio handle. You know, truckers like to have that." And I'm like, "All right, cool. Go ahead and type out Cliff Beastwood, and I'll be able to move on with my life from here."
There you go.
In my professional trucker company profile, I got Cliff Beastwood as my CB name. So.
Nice.
Anyway.
Nice.
Yeah, but besides that, the jokes and the chapter. All right, so whoever's listening, close your eyes, and I'll do my best to describe this. Now, picture a pickup truck. Now, make it a dually. Now, make it a single cab dually. Now, put a tow, like a car platform behind it. Now, on
Flatbed.
that platform, place a Hummer. Now, turn that Hummer, make it hot pink, and it's actually a toy Power Wheel Hummer that a little kid would drive, and that's the only thing being towed by a single cab dually pickup truck on a full car-sized platform of a trailer. Definitely the strangest thing I had a double take at.
Oh, you really saw that?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Oh, man.
And I wish I could have gotten a picture of it, but of course I was driving and I couldn't. But yeah, big ass truck, big ass dually.
That's nuts, man.
A trailer with a hot pink Power Wheel Hummer. Nothing in the bed. Nothing else on the trailer. Strapped to it was a tiny ass Hot Wheels or a Power Wheel, little hot pink Hummer. Funniest thing I've seen.
Man, I got one. It don't top that one, but on my way back from that one's pretty wild, man. I've never seen that one, but this was on a
Very,
personal
very
drive.
specific.
On my way back from where was I? Louisville, Kentucky. Yeah, I was coming back into West Virginia. I didn't make it quite to the line yet, but there was a it was a long wheelbase Ford F-150. It's like an early 90s model, like a champagne color that Ford have. And they had tires, like pickup tires, stacked in the bed of this thing. It was passing tractor trailers, and it was taller than the stack. So I don't even know how they made it underneath some of the bridges and stuff. But I mean, they were stacked, dude. And every time he would shift lanes, it would lean, almost like what you would see in a cartoon. And I don't know how he kept them on there. I don't know what was in the middle of the tires, like in the stacks or something, or how they were tied in, but they did not come out. And he was just like all over the road, and they would lean probably like 3.5 feet out past the truck whenever he'd switch lanes. Yeah, that was pretty wild, but it still don't beat the pink Hummer on the back of a friggin' car hauler. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah. Yeah, but speaking of the Sway, they got tandem trailers, which is usually UPS or any mail like that.
Yeah.
You got the single cab with the trailer, connected to a trailer, connected to the trailer sometimes.
Have you ever ran tandem?
No, just singles. But you talk about swaying and snaking, dude. It might the rear, and it's actually, this is called cheating the trailer, which on a small scale, if you're like on a bicycle and you are going real slow and you turn the front wheel, your back tire isn't going to follow that exact tread.
Right.
Way. So when you're going around a curve, you got to go extra wide up front, because behind it could be like 5 feet more to the right instead of where you're at. So that's why you got to turn real wide, because the back of you isn't turning as wide.
Right, and there's no differential to help keep it in line either.
Yeah, so if you got one trailer, that's enough. But if you got 3 trailers on their own fifth wheel, you got 3. Oh man, yeah. So the sway had to been 3 to 5 feet, and that was just going in a straight line, swaying with the tiny maneuvers up front.
Yeah, and the wind. As soon as you got hit by wind on one of those trailers, and just walk it right around.
Yeah. Which is a cool thing with tanks. We're about the same weight loaded, but empty. I think we're a little lighter. But even cooler about a tank, it's rounded on all sides. So even if the wind's pretty bad, the aerodynamics of the tank is nothing compared to the blockage of a square box trailer of wind not getting around the up and under of the trailer itself. So with that, it's not too much of a big deal for me. But then I got surge to worry about.
Yeah, surge. Now, have you? You said you ran across the country with reefer, right? With a reefer. Yeah. Did you ever run up in like around Washington State?
Yeah, and Donner's Pass. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you know where I'm talking about now.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, that was my first experience. Once I got to the West Coast, that was my first experience with major like mountains and stuff. Was up around there, and my God, dude, that was some scary stuff.
Well, yeah, man. If any of the people that are listening now, if they're around the West Virginia, southern West Virginia area, 77 towards Whitsville, there's about 10 miles at like 1 to 10 mile markers on, I think it's 77 or 77 just when you get into West Virginia on the north side. Beautiful area. With a loaded semi, I'm down to 20 to 25 miles an hour going up that thing, because I literally can't.
Are you talking about the Virginia line?
I think so.
Flat top. Is that what you're talking about?
Flatwood.
Flatwoods? I think you're talking about flat top, dude. Is when you come up the massive mountain and you can see off to the right, and there's a beautiful view out through there. Yeah, that's flat top.
Right above Whitsville or something. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that's at the Virginia line.
Not as big of a deal as out west, but if anybody knows that area down there, that's about as big as it can get around that area. But yeah, dude, it's even scarier going downhill because
Oh,
you
yeah.
got to go slower downhill
Yep.
than you go uphill for safety.
Yeah, you
And,
got to low
the
gear
Jake
that
brake,
thing. And you have a Jake brake
Yeah.
in your truck?
Oh yeah. Yeah, and by
Now,
the way,
do you
I'm
know the
automatic,
technical way
too.
that works? Are you able to give everyone
Sure.
a...
So with why not? We'll see. The way I consider it working is that you got the brake pedal, and that uses your brake pads. And when you got 80,000 pounds on brake pads, 5 seconds of push, you're ruining your brake pads. But if you
but
use
first
your
off,
Jake
too,
brake,
your brake pads work opposite of the way they work in your personal vehicle. The way the
oh,
air pressure works to them,
because it's air braking. Yeah,
yeah,
sure.
exactly. So I mean, it works the same way as far as pad to disc, but I mean pad to rotor, but the air actually works opposite the way the fluid does in your vehicle.
Okay.
It's backwards.
Yeah, and we got a PSI monitor that it'll. Actually, I don't have one on this truck. It's probably within the dashboard screen, but on my other truck that I had, Freightliner, represent. What do you have?
What did I have? It was a Freightliner. Yeah, that's what I ran.
Okay, cool. Yeah, my first single cab was a Freightliner. Then I got a bunk short ceiling, which you're tall, right? At least 5'12".
Not as tall as you, dude.
Okay, right on. Yeah, so in the short double bunk, I had to duck and still watch the top of my head.
Mhm.
Now I'm luckily in a double bunk tall ceiling. It's about 10 feet, but that was a Peterbilt. Not a fan. Not gonna talk bad. Just more of a fan of Freightliner.
Yeah.
But so the Jake brake, the way I imagine it, is however the brakes work, you're burning up something real quick with a lot of weight. But the Jake brake counteracts the engine. So it, so like right now, I only have 2,500 revs on my RPM, and cruising on flat, going 55, I'm 900 to 1,200 depending on the incline. So if I'm going uphill and before I downshift, it gets to about 13 to 16 depending. But when I'm going downhill and I'm trying to keep my speed down, my Jake brake is like a little turn signal thing on my right side, and I got 3 levels for power, and then I also have a push and pull to manually shift my transmission up or down depending if I'm going up or down a hill. So the way I think it works is if I'm going downhill and I have to downshift manually or activate the Jake brake, I flip it down, and then it goes from 12th gear, I have 12, and it shoots down to 9 or 10 gear. So obviously, I'm still going the same speed at first, but I've shifted immediately 2 to 3 gears down, and that's killing my revs.
Mhm.
So it's preventing you from shifting up to lower your revs, so your revs are really, really high.
Which increases the
And
torque, which is why you're not rolling downhill faster.
Right, so the engine decelerates itself,
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah, instead of your brakes decelerating your speed, your engine is working against itself, which
Yep.
can also heat it up real quick too.
Yeah.
So you gotta kind of get a sweet medium of enough brake, but enough engine brake, so neither overheat.
Now, do you have an exhaust brake on your truck?
I'm gonna say no, but explain what it is, and I might say yes.
Exhaust brake is it's actually like a little valve that's inside your exhaust, and it'll hold
Okay.
compression back. And it's what you hear. It kind of resembles the sound of a Jake brake, but that's what you hear a lot of like dump trucks and stuff. Whenever they're coming down a hill, instead of hitting a Jake brake, they'll just hit the exhaust brake, and
Okay.
it'll cackle off.
Like a
you know.
machine gun going.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. No, I don't have that.
Yeah, see, that's what my truck had. I didn't have a Jake brake. Some of our trucks did. We had international trucks that had Jake brakes in them, but I didn't care for international. The Freightliners were all about comfort.
Oh, dude. Tell me about it. So comfortable in this thing, but we'll get back to that. So
Yeah.
it seems like the exhaust brake and Jake brake counteract the speed of the engine itself without.
Yeah, it increases the torque,
Okay,
so
right
that it's almost like you're
Yeah.
dragging something. That's what it feels like,
Yeah.
which
Okay.
is actually good when you're coming down a hill. Since I didn't have a Jake brake, I'd kick my exhaust brake on top of the hill, and it would heat my exhaust up, which I did have, alerts inside if I'd get my exhaust too hot. And on rainy days and snowy days, you obviously didn't want to do that too much. But with having DEF, which is a conversation all in itself, but our DEF systems were right behind our fuel tanks, and the exhaust brake was right in between the fuel tanks. So in the wintertime, DEF kind of calcifies a little bit. It kind of, I don't know, it gets funky when it gets cold.
Yeah, it hardens up a little bit.
Yeah.
Or crystallizes, yeah.
Yeah, yep. And what I used to do was just run with my exhaust brake on for a little bit, and it would heat up the reservoir for my DEF.
Oh, okay.
And it actually, I didn't realize it at the time, but we had a lot of people with the DEF systems failing in their trucks. And once they went out, dude, I mean, your truck wouldn't run but like maybe 50 friggin' yards, and it would shut down.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of people with the DEF systems failing, and I never had an issue with it because that's what I'd always done, just to heat it up. Well, come to find out, manufacturer says that's what you're supposed to do with those trucks to keep the DEF system warm in the winter. So even if you're running, 60 miles an hour, you kick your exhaust brake on for, I don't know, maybe like 5 miles, something like that, to heat up the exhaust a little bit.
Yeah.
And it would take care of it. And another thing with my truck that was pretty cool is it had a two-way accelerator, or I call it a two-level accelerator. You could actually, if you pushed in on the accelerator all the way to the floor right off of, say a red light, like some people normally would, like in their pickup or, in a regular car, it would just get up and go, you shift right and everything. Well, in my truck, it wouldn't. Like, it would bog itself out, it'd fight you every step of the way. But if you eased in on it and was easy on the differential, then you would actually get more acceleration. And what you would have to do is double tap the throttle on takeoff all the way to the floor, double tap it, and you would feel it catch. There's actually like a little level to the throttle where it would be, you'd push it all the way down to the floor or right before you get to the floor, and you'd feel like resistance to it. And if you would hold it right there where you feel that resistance, that was actually full throttle in the truck. And if you put it all the way to the floor, you actually lost throttle.
Right.
So
Okay.
it forced you to be light and feather on the throttle itself.
Yeah. A little incognito turbo.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's
Nice.
funny you mention it like that because my truck boss, he didn't realize that, and he had an international. We had Freightliners and internationals. That's what we had here, and there was always the argument of which one was better, and I like Freightliner. And he said, well, the internationals are faster. And I was like, oh yeah, you want to put that to the test? And I had, I had my GPS, and everything locked in to get the right speed and everything. It would tell you what I was going and everything. Well, I showed him logs on it where I had got it up to like 72 miles an hour coming down through, the mountains on 79. And he didn't believe me. He thought I fudged the numbers, photoshopped it or something. And I was like, okay, fine, man. I am a graphic artist, but I'd have no reason to lie to you about these numbers.
Not a liar.
So we put it to the test one day in Clarksburg. We took off at this red light, and like I told you, we were actually on an incline. We were empty on an incline, and I told you how the throttle worked. So I did what I know with the truck, and I started just pulling away from him. Like at first we took off about the same, but then I just started pulling away, leaving him, dude. And he was just like waving at me, like cussing me and everything. We had fun with it though. I mean, he wasn't really mad, but it was just funny how it worked out. And but the International didn't have that setup in it either. So the inside of the Internationals were like Cadillacs.
What's up?
The inside of the Internationals were like Cadillacs compared to the Freightliners, other than the seat.
Really?
But the Freightliner engine, they had a smaller intercooler and cooling system, and only had one air tank for my brakes. That was the only downfall to it, is the International had 2 air tanks. So you had to really pay attention when managing your brake system, coming down hills like Green Tree Hill and Pittsburgh and stuff.
Yeah, best power, yeah.
Yeah, it got scary at times, man. I had my alert come on a couple times.
Yeah, I got to drag race another truck one time. I don't know if he knew we were drag racing, but
He didn't know.
I also didn't win either. But we were both loaded, and we just both happened to be at the starting line of the red light. And the slowest drag race I've ever been a part of or ever seen. Just 0 to 60 in 3 minutes. But we weren't either being assholes. It's just we both couldn't get around each other.
Right.
But, so right now I'm actually stopped to fill up, which can still stay on the phone.
Well, actually, I think it's a good stopping point for us. We've been live for a little bit, and want to thank you for spending the time with us on your drive.
Oh, and, yeah, dude. Anytime, man.
Yeah, and maybe we'll make this a regular thing, man. Be safe out there, and we'll give you a call some other time. We'll plan something out a little bit better. When you stop for the night, hop on to Twitch and check out the stream, see what you think of it.
Okay, that'd be cool. Is it re-recorded? Or pre-recorded, I mean?
No, it wasn't pre-recorded.
I know.
But it'll save as a recording. Yes, we're live, but it'll save as a recording. I'll send you the link whenever we're done here.
Okay, cool. And timing-wise, any day, any time, it could be at any point because my shift starts when I have to. So I might start at 2 a.m. I might not even get up until 3 p.m. to start my day. So if you any time that you feel like doing a stream might be possible. So it doesn't have to be set in the afternoon or whatever.
Okay. Awesome, man.
Yeah.
Well, I'll text you, and be safe out there, man, and thank you again.
Okay.
All right.
Bye, man. I appreciate it, dude.
Yeah, man. Later.
Yeah, later.
And that's it for today. And I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you did, please, leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, follow, all those good things. And as always, thanks for watching.